Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lawn Care CEO podcast. My name is Dan Ralphs. I'm the head coach here at the Lawn Care CEO. I'm joined by one of our other, I actually think technically your title is head coach actually nowadays. My coach and our business coach facilitator, one of our coaches here at the Lawn Care CEO, Miranda.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Maybe someday we can get someone to see you. We are our tens of listeners. We're not famous. So, but our tens of listeners, someone is going to say, da-na-na-na. What's the song? I was like, na-na. There's a song.
I don't know.
I don't remember
what song is like?
There's a song that's almost
like that. Are you thinking about hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Somebody sing that to you.
Yeah, they're like, don't give up your coaching careers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Well, hey, everybody. We're happy to have you with us. Today is July 9th. Happy 4th of July. We missed our 4th of July episode, but happy 4th of July. Go America. All of that. Today, here's what we're going to be talking about. One of the things that probably is the most common when we meet clients that we end up coaching and we work with, and one of the probably most rewarding turnarounds that we see when we're working with clients is the ability from them to go absolutely overwhelmed, where there is so much on their plate that they almost can't see straight. They don't remember the name of their kids. Their dog forgets about them and barks when they get home. It is bad, where they're so overwhelmed and there's so much on their plate and it feels just really heavy, to a position where they have time. I had a client who I've been working with for a couple of years now, but when I first met him, he said, my big dream is to install a general manager and basically retire and transition from employee in my business to shareholder in my business. And that's a big goal of mine. In other words, to go from no time to maximum amount of time, to as much freedom and free time as I can. And that journey from totally overwhelmed. In fact, we have a name for it. We call it chronic CEO fatigue.
Yep.
You've seen this, right, Miranda? Chronic CEO fatigue where the bags are under the eyes.
I was going to say, sometimes it's about time with my family. Sometimes it's I bought that jet ski last year and I've ridden it one time, right? I had a business owner say that to me recently. I'm go right now. What are you doing? Go ride the jet ski, right?
But business can become all consuming, especially lawn care business during seasons, especially can be all consuming. And so we wanted to have a podcast all about time, all about what do we do to create more time in our business, and how do we charter a course from completely overwhelmed to I'm playing golf on a Wednesday morning and I'm not even worried about it. Okay. So that's the goal, is how do we go from one place to the other? And Miranda and I are going to try to just kind of talk that topic through. Does that topic make sense, Miranda?
I think it makes sense. And I'm now thinking about what our number one thing is to do in pursuit of more time. And I'm really excited to see you land that idea with our business.
It's true. Owners. It is true. All right. So, so as you can tell, we kind of pre talked about this, and this is my number one that probably I almost want to shout it from the rooftops because I see it inflicting so much pain in so many that I love and care about and that I worked with. And then once I see it change, all of a sudden, the light bulbs go on, the angels start to sing and everything's great. And that is this. The number one thing you can do to create an environment where you have more time in your business is to be profitable and to design your business in a way that allows you to be profitable. Some of you are wondering why you have no time when you're driving a boat with holes in it and you have to keep bailing water and you have to keep patching holes. And it's fix the boat, right? Fix the boat so you stop sinking.
That's right.
And And I just get so like, and it's, by the way, I'm not trying to patronize here. It is hard to do. Like, that's not an easy task. But until that task is fixed, like, again, the boat owner is like constantly fighting and sinking. It's like, it's a boat that's full of woodpeckers. I don't know what we would like, what the analogy would be, but like something is happening where like there are nonstop new holes appearing.
Okay.
It's like, we have to build a vessel, a wooden boat with woodpeckers. Like, we have to like get rid of the woodpeckers. Like, we have to like create a business that allows us to be profitable. Is that kind of making sense at all?
It does make sense to me. And I think there's this place that business owners get to where they're throwing the water out of the boat, and it's like they don't even see the woodpeckers, this image that we've created. It's like they don't even see them. And again, without like any judgment, for you get in that space because you just get dialed in on handling whatever it is that's in front of you, which, by the way,
there's water in the boat. We got to get it out, right? Yeah.
That's right. And which, by the way, the getting the water out of the boat thing, the like handling the fires that are in front of you, is how that same guy or gal actually was able to get the boat as big as it is, right? Like, build the business to where it is today. And now we're saying, no. You have to pause. You have to walk away from the water long enough now to get rid of the woodpeckers, right? Because those have gotten too big in the meantime.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Like, a lot of the habits that create or cause a business to become successful in the first place, to even get off the ground. Habits like, I take on any job. I work like crazy just to like, like when I was a young man, I served a mission for our church, and we would ride bikes. And when I first got there, I hadn't ridden a bike. I wasn't in biking shape. And so my guys who were working with, like, they were in biking shape. And so they would just take off. And it was all I could do to keep up with them. All I could do was keep up with them. And after a while, I found myself like way out in front all of a sudden. And I was like, why are they slowing down? It wasn't that they were slowing down. I'd just gotten stronger. And so in some ways, like, what we do to get this business up and running causes problems later on. And so let me talk you through very specifically, if you're suffering from this, where you feel like, man, I keep selling lots of work, and then I look at the bank account, it's still sort of empty. I feel like I should hire more help, but I don't know if I can afford it. I feel like we need another truck. We need to like up level our equipment somehow. And man, I just got to go sell more jobs to pay for the truck that is there. So the number one thing we have to do in almost every case is we have to get really, really clear about our financial numbers. Particularly, we have to understand our cost of goods sold. We've said this a million times on the podcast if you're listening. We have to understand our cost of goods sold, how much is our labor and material to produce the work as a percentage of the total. And we have to understand our efficiency, like, and really that's all tied back to our cost of goods. And we did this the other day, and the cost of goods can be off for one of two reasons. Either our pricing is too low, or we're not very good at doing the work. We're not very efficient at doing the work. So it's one of those two things. And almost always, it's not 100% of the time, but 90% of the time that we bump into a business, something's off in that equation. And as a result, they're not profitable. So they can't like have enough breathing room to even make any progress. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so thing number one really that we do, if we were to show up your business, is like, let's get clear on the numbers. We had this happen just the other day with a client of mine. I almost hesitate to tell this story because it's such a sad one. But in some ways it's a really optimistic one. So we finally were like, what is going on? He's feeling overwhelmed. He's in his truck. He hired a guy and they're not getting the job. Like, it feels like chaos. Yeah. And we're like, what is really going on? And when we finally focused on this first principle, which is like, create a profitable business model. And we ran the data and we ran the numbers and we saw his pricing, and we literally audited every one of his mowing accounts. And we said, what should it be priced versus what it was currently priced?
Yeah.
Miranda, every one of them was underbid. probably half of them were underbid by 50 to 150%.
Oof.
And it's like, well, now we know. We now know why this business feels like a sinking ship.
For sure. Oh, what a heartbreak in that moment to have this moment of like, whoa. Like,
I kept telling him, this is great news. I said, this is such great news because now we know. Now we know.
For sure.
And now that we know, we can fix it. We can do something about it. But if we don't know, we're sick. If we don't know there are woodpeckers, like when you find the woodpeckers, it's like such a dumb analogy.
It really is. It's not our best, but we're committed.
But we're in it now, yeah.
Yep.
But when you find that woodpecker like pecking away in your ship, you're like, oh, this has been my problem all along.
Throw him out.
And no wonder I keep bailing water. Oh, if I can just fix, now that I know what's wrong, I can fix it.
Yeah.
It's actually a decent analogy. I'm warming up to woodpeckers.
Let's see if we'll massage through it here a little bit today. But I think about that like we're amiss if we don't mention the psychology around money to some degree when we're talking about this knowing your numbers thing. Yeah. Because I always come from a place of trying to figure out like the person that's in front of me, why are they not doing this work? What are they not understanding? What are they afraid of? What's getting in their way? Or like what's inside their head that's making them act in such a way because they are telling me they want to be over here, but they're actually over on this side, right? Like they're not where they want to be. And so when I just think about that and specifically around numbers, there's always, I would say always, right? Some element of kind of being afraid of what you're going to find out once you actually do know the numbers. There's often, not always, but there's often an embarrassment that they don't already know, that they don't know, which by the way...
There's a little mud on your face, it kind of feels like when that happens.
Right. And it happens all the time where business owners, they don't really know where their money's going and they're a little embarrassed. That happens. But there's always this fear of like, but then what? What am I going to find out that I'm not going to want to deal with? And there's quite often it actually is easier and simpler than you think. I'm not saying that's a rule across the board, but often it's like, hey, we just got to look at your pricing and we got to start to make some adjustments so you are charging what you should be charging, to use that example. Yep. And as soon as we do that, we go look at these numbers again a month from now, and there's a measurable, meaningful difference. Right?
It's such a cool moment. It's such a cool moment when we're coaching, and there's like this moment of like the jaw kind of drops. They're like, what is happening? I have money. And I'm like, well, running a business should give you money. That's the whole point. It's not the whole point, but it's a big part of the point.
Big part of it. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I just haven't experienced that yet where I ended up with extra money or leftover money. And this is not you being greedy. It's just like, that's what good businesses do, is they produce money, and not money that pays for everyone in the business and then has nothing left over, money that is left over for a shareholder. At the end of the day, the other, like I had this moment where around speaking of the psychology of money, I do think there's like two factors at play. I do think early on we see businesses through the lens of top line, not bottom line.
Okay. Yeah.
So we kind of say, like when we say I'm $1 million business, we see our businesses that way. We don't say I'm a $200,000 profit business.
Right. Yeah.
Which
for sure.
I think would be.
It's a bigger flex.
Right? Like it's a way bigger flex. It's not even close. Right. Like for me to say like, and I can be it would be really good, but I could be an $800,000 business and be a $200,000 business compared to I'm a $3 million company top line and I'm a negative $100,000 business.
Yeah, I want to talk to that guy or the 800K bringing home 200K guy or gal. Yeah. I want to talk to them. What are you doing?
Yeah, fight me over that. Like I want the bottom line, not the top line. So I do think we think that way. Like I had a guy I was chatting with one day, and he was like telling me about his business. He said he had two major divisions, and one was like installing turf, and one was doing like fertilization weed control, and like artificial turf, and then fertilization weed control.
Okay.
And when we broke down the two halves of the business, one half of the business, the turf business, was just hemorrhaging cash. Woodpeckers everywhere. It was so bad.
Boat sinking.
Boats, that half of the boat was just capsizing. The other half, very profitable. And I said, well, let's just cut off the unprofitable half.
Yeah. Yep. What did he say?
And I mean, I don't want to like even blame him for it, but he's like, but. Like, what if we could resurrect that? Like, what? And you feel committed to the top line. You feel committed to this business that we've built, and we put effort and energy into it. It's hard for us to accept that as a failure and kind of move on. I'm not saying always you should, but there is something psychological to it as well, right?
Yes. Is there something, do you think, Dan, about when you first start your business, you think the way that it gets bigger is like more things, more jobs that we say, like you need more jobs. So it's like more different kinds of jobs that we say yes to, bigger jobs that we say yes to, other problems that we figure out. Like you think that all of it has to expand in order for the business to get bigger. And that's like the mentality that you're in. And then you get somebody like us in front of these business owners saying, hey, no, we're telling you to do less. Do you think there's a moment where it almost feels like kind of moving backwards to them?
Yeah. Well, like the initial psychology, I think, is because I remember when I started my very first business and I sold $1,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
I thought in my head, I just made $1,000.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I do.
But I didn't make $1,000 because I had to pay for all the things and.
Yep.
But in my head, I made $1,000. That was like what I thought about, right?
Yep.
And I think that in our heads still exists.
Yeah.
And early on, maybe that's a fine mindset. But
Totally.
I've met young companies that have learned to think about bottom line business and not just top line business, where they look at that $1,000 and they're willing to gut it out and say, well, if we're being fair, that actually cost me 40% to produce, cost me 20% to manage, and I have to pay for my truck loans, and that's 10%. And so really that was not $1,000 job, that was a $200 job. So can we just be honest about the fact that I made $200, not $1,000?
Right.
And those companies who are willing to admit that and accept that are in a much better place. Now, what does this have to do with time? Well, at the end of the day, time is money in a really real way. And not only is time money, but profitable companies, one, they can staff correctly, which we'll talk about in a minute. Number two, they can pay for upgrades to the system. So they have resources to say, ooh, we need that software tool. Oh, if we had ride-on sprayers versus we're just walking, that would be more effective and more time efficient. Ooh, it would be better for us to outsource our bookkeeping rather than trying to do it in-house. Like the resources that allows you to do, it allows you to make all the other decisions you need to make in regard to creating time for yourself. So in a very real way, time is money. In fact, I had one CEO that he was a CTO who said to me one day, and it kind of stuck in my brain. He said, time is not a limited resource, not in business. It is in your life, but it's not in business because I can buy more time.
Smart.
I can go buy more time. So we can go buy all the time in the world, but we first have to create profit. So my argument is that thing number one we have to do in order for us to create a profitable, like a time-rich business, is we have to create a cash-rich business. And I know that's, now that I say it out loud, it sounds obvious. But I'm telling you, it's really hard to do the other things we're about to recommend until the boat is not sinking.
I love it.
Until all of the woodpeckers are eradicated.
It's a wooden boat in the visual too.
Wooden boat, not a metal
boat. Otherwise that doesn't make sense, but we're with you. Yep. It's good. It's really good.
Number two. So number one, know your numbers, profitable business. Number two is, once that happens, we argue a lot in this group. It's like, hey, there are 3 things that you need to be responsible for. Set the vision as a CEO and leader. You got to set the vision, build the team. Don't run out of money. Number 2 is we have to build a team that is adding time to our bucket rather than taking time away from our time bucket. So if you've been in business long enough, you've had an employee that stole time from you, and hopefully you've also experienced employees that add time to you.
Yep.
And there's a major difference in those 2 employees. In fact, we had when I was at Infusionsoft, Clayton Mask, he told the story of how they went to Jim Collins, and Jim Collins was sitting across from them. Now, if you don't know Jim Collins is one of the foremost leadership business thinkers of our age. He's written great books like Good to Great, Great by Choice. If you haven't read those, by the way, go check them out. They're all-time classics.
Yeah.
But they actually got invited to come and sit as a leadership team with Jim Collins. And he said this, which I thought told the story that I'm trying to make here. He said, when you hire a B player or a C player on your team, what happens to your time? Well, your time, you end up investing time in them, meaning they're not doing their job. So you have to do your job plus 20% of their job, or your job plus 30% of their job. And he said, who are those players taking time away from? So if you're listening at home, you can kind of answer that question. Who are they taking time away from? And the people in the room said, well, they're taking my time away. Like they're stealing time from me.
Or other people in the business, right?
Or other people in the business. And he said, away from the A players, he said, no, they're taking time away from your families.
Oof.
Like they're taking time away from your kids and your wife or your husband or whoever. Yeah. In other words, like, and for whatever reason, like when they like hit him in the stomach, where it was like, and Aaron said this to me a couple of times. He's like, that B player is not more important than your wife. That C player is not more important than your kid's soccer game. By the way, that C player is not more important than your jet ski trip either, right? Like, it's
totally.
and so like to get really honest with ourselves about who on our team is adding to our time bucket versus taking away from our time bucket is my number 2 thing on my list of things to say, hey, if we want to be committed to really creating a time-rich business, we have to have a team full of people who are on the whole adding to the time, my time bucket, and because they handle their business, because they do their jobs effectively, because they are willing to give discretionary effort, because they not only solve their problems, but they solve one more problem that's not theirs.
That's
that kind of person.
That's great. I'm glad you added that detail. Right? It's when sorry to interrupt you. When I think about like who is an A player, how do our business owners know? Like, what does that feel like if they've never experienced it?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a great way to capture it. It's like they do what the business needs them to do, and often one more other thing, even if it's a little thing, a little bit of something for this guy or that gal, you know.
So
you know what I
mean? We've hired a virtual assistant in the Philippines. Her name's Via. By the way, if you don't know of Via, listen to the previous podcast. She's outstanding. She's absolutely fantastic. A player. By the way, she edits these podcasts, so I'm like giving her some.
She's the
kudos.
best. She truly is the best player.
For all you do.
All the time I talk about how great she is.
But a good example of like A playerness is one day I was super busy for like 3 days in a row. And so I didn't give Via any tasks to do. Like she literally, she'll hear this, but she's not the type of person that would take advantage. She could have just sat at home and I would have been like, oh, well, and we would have paid her. And
you'd be like, my bad. Yeah.
And like literally come back and I'm like, hey, Via, so sorry, I've been gone. And she's like, well, don't worry. I've filled up my time with things. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I developed this business model, like this idea for how we can make some more money. And I have a spreadsheet and I've researched other companies to do something similar. And by the way, here's this whole plan of how we can like grow the bit. I was like, what? Like, holy mackerel, right? And this isn't somebody, right, who we're paying $150,000 a year to,
right?
But somebody who is in the mode of like, hey, I'm going to take my part, and then I'm going to see what else I can do to contribute in a meaningful way. Patrick Lencioni defines the ideal team player. He's got a book called The Ideal Team Player, which I really like. And he gives it 3 pieces to the ideal team player. He says humble, hungry, and smart. And smart meaning the EQ, IQ. Like they kind of get it.
Yeah.
They get it, whatever it is. And they don't need to be IQ smart necessarily. They don't need to pass a math test, but smart, like they understand, like, the irrigation guy who like just gets how to fix things.
Great example.
Like smart, right?
Yep.
So humble, hungry, smart is your ideal team player. And then I'd add this little piece that's like they do their portion and a little more. And so Miranda, like I'm hearing the like echo back from the podcast verse where the question is, oh, that's cute, Dan. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, let's just go find a few of those. What are you talking about? I've been trying to find those all along and I can't find them anywhere. So Miranda, what do we say to the people who are like, I don't know that those people exist in my town, in my neighborhood, in my area?
What do we say to those people? We say, you're wrong. You got it all wrong is what we say.
False.
No. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's where my brain goes. It's like you have the business owner in front of you who has hired, B and C players over and over and over again. And you get to a point where you don't believe that it's possible that A players exist. Like,
you become resigned to it. And what's worse when you become resigned to that is that you
attract more of it, right?
You adapt your business model to expect them.
There it is. That's right.
And as a result, it's kind of like, well, you kind of resign yourself to the fact I'll always have to do that task, because every time I've hired 3 people to try to do it and none of them have been successful at doing it. And so it will always be mine. Like it's impossible to delegate. And we feel hiring despair, where it's like, despair is like the lack of hope. There's no hope for me. And as a result, we literally adjust what would be a healthy business model, a healthy business plan. And we begin to adapt our business to the individuals in the business, the B players and C players in the business. And we just ride with the B players and C players because we don't believe we can find anything better.
Right. Right. And by the way, if you're in that spot, right, where you've adapted to the B's and C's because you don't believe you can find anything better. It's just the way it's gone for you so far.
And by the way, the transition from B to A is also tricky. It's like, well, I have to fire that person and not have anyone doing that work. And that means I have to add more time to my plate for a period of time while I'm finding someone and then training someone. It's like, I better off just to leave them there, let them do their 3 hours of work and 8 hours of pay. Right. And we'll move along. Right.
That's right. That's right. And truly, when you're in that spot, it's almost a little bit like, man, good on you for still keeping the wheels on this thing while you don't really have the support that you need. You're probably not making back to number 1 on the list. You're probably not making the money that you should be, but somehow you still held on to, this your boat, right? Like it's still there. It's still in the water and floating somehow magically. And I just think the way to approach is like, I just want to shake them a little bit. Like, just forget everything that you have told yourself about how people are going to show up for you and come at it from another angle. Like, imagine what your business could be like if every seat was filled with an A player. And I know it's hard to imagine.
The truth is, this probably deserves its own podcast, to be honest, because that's such a gnarly question that deserves a lot of conversation. Is one of the keys to this whole journey out of like chronic CEO fatigue. Yeah. But it happens. Like I saw it happen literally this month, where I saw a CEO who has been just duct tape and baling wire this thing and just grit and toughness making this thing work. Yeah. And finally got somebody in the production manager seat that's awesome.
Love that.
Somebody in the office manager seat that we really are optimistic about. And it's like, whew. And it's like, we start to put these players in place and all of a sudden it's like just years we're earning years back of this guy's life, right? And
right.
so it is. I just want to like combat hiring despair, where it's like it is doable. There are great human beings. Sometimes there are so many different reasons we might be struggling, whether it's the way we're advertising our jobs, the process we're putting people through, what we can afford to pay them, back to idea number one. I loved a leader today was like, we can't get anyone for $25 an hour. He's like, I wonder if we need to raise it to $30 an hour. He's like, let's just keep, like, let's readjust our business model until we can we can afford to pay for someone. And it's like, obviously there's more complexity to that, but
sure.
It was like, but that was the spirit. It was like, we can find someone. We just have to create the right environment for that person.
Yeah. So to I don't know, sum it up in a helpful way for our listeners here. When you think about building the team, it's first of all, like, realize there's a certain way you're thinking about those people that's at play here, whether it's because you have a bunch of B's and C's, right? Like, you are contributing to that the mechanisms there a little bit. And the other thing is that hiring feels like this sort of mythical thing that, like only wizards like Dan Ralphs, knows how to do. But in reality, there are steps to follow. There is a way that you can learn, just like anything else that we talk about in business. You do step one, you step two, and listen, are you going to knock them all out of the park right out of the gate? Probably not, but just you can practice and you can learn that skill. You can put a system in place there to help you, like, ensure that you get more and more A players. So it's like, just learn how to go do that thing and go take a crack at it from a different angle, in a different way. Yeah.
And again, future podcasts on that. I'm pinning it right now because
sure.
Yeah, stay listening, because it really is a tricky science to get the hiring right, and when to hire and how to hire. That deserves more time. All right, number two. So number one is like, know your numbers, create a profitable business so that we can create enough revenue to go do the other things. Number two is we have to really be keyed in on hiring. It really is the difference maker between those who kind of like get this right early and those who take a long time to get it right, is who they attract and the talent they get. If they are A players, it's like we're off and running. If they're B players or C players, we can be in the doldrums for quite a long time. And then principle number three is this idea of we have to be willing to sacrifice revenue in order to simplify the business. In other words, we have to think about time and money as we have to think about time as money and money as time.
Yep. And
so, I'll give a quick example here. So I think it's okay. I think they'll forgive me that I tell this story. So by the way, one of the reasons, by the way, that we wear these hats, which are totally like imposters, like we're imposters wearing them because we've never mowed a lawn in our lives. But we feel a part of these teams that we're a part of, like Green Team or
I've mowed a lawn, not professionally, but I've mowed the lawn, Dan. Just so you know, okay?
That's true. Set the record
straight.
I was bad at it. Like my dad would always get mad at me because I didn't mow my lawn good. But moral of the story is, like, we feel a part of these teams that we're in, and we are actually meet in these. We're like in their leadership team meetings. Well, I was in a leadership team meeting this morning. 4 a.m. my time, 7 a.m. Eastern. And we're in this little leadership team meeting. And I've hinted at the fact that this company loses a lot of time because they accept checks. So they accept checks from a good portion of their clients. And in their minds, they think to themselves, there's a portion of our client base that just wouldn't know. They haven't learned what a credit card is yet. They use rotary phones and they don't know what credit cards are because they were born in the 1800s and they just haven't gotten it yet. Mm-hmm. And so this causes all this chaos. In other words, like there's like when we have exceptions to a normal flow or system, when our business is more complex rather than more simple, when we have products that are or products that we sell that are highly complex and need to be highly customized.
Nuanced. Yeah.
nuanced, where there's a lot of moving parts, where there are a lot of options. So, the great fast food restaurants like West Coast In-N-Out Burger, there's like 4 items on the menu, and all of a sudden that's a way simpler business to sell than a much more complex business. Is much harder and much more time intensive. So, moral of the story. So again, if I have 3 different ways to pay, my business is more complex rather than simpler. Okay.
Yep.
So all of those things are factored in. So there I was sitting in this leadership team meeting. We do our leadership team meeting virtually. So I'm on a screen. Everyone else is in the room, on a screen facing me is the situation.
Yep.
And they're in their little conference room office, and we're sitting and chatting, and a knock at the door, and in walks this probably 68-year-old man with a paper check.
Yeah.
And the whole room just kind of stops, and he seems oblivious to the fact we're in the middle of a meeting, right? He just walks in. Hey, how's it going?
He still uses a rotary phone, right?
How's it going, Dolores? And he's wearing overalls, and he's got a collared shirt on, right? It just hat, classical guy. And he walks in, and the whole meeting just like we're in the thick of it, like a really intense conversation. We're just like all go quiet. He walks in. It's like the sloth portion of the Zootopia episode where it's like super slow. So we're all just like staring, watching this happen. And the owner kind of like says, hey, whatever his name was, Dave. This is Dave. Dan, Dave, you're on television. Wave to Dan. And he turns and he gives me the bird, and he just like flips me off, and just is like kind of like an old codger that just kind of like is living life to his own beat.
Yep.
But everything stopped for this business in order for this guy to pay his $42 check.
Yep.
And it was like, all right, we're going to need your signature, Dave. And he leans down, he signs. I mean, it took some time. And so there are kind of 2 halves to this. One, the half is systematically in our systems, are there things like this, like a paper check in the middle of a meeting, that just takes time? And as much as we love Dave, and we love his overalls, and we love this guy, we love him as a client, is there a way that we can put some system in place that allows us to love Dave on our own terms and in our own time frame?
That's great.
And it's these kind of moments in a day that are out of system, that are exceptions to the rule, where and I'm okay if we want to keep accepting Dave's check, but if that's 20% or 30% of our clients, no bueno.
That's right.
It disrupts us too often. If that's happening 20 times a day, where somebody's walking and everybody stops, it's like that can't work unless we're a very high touch business. There's a kind of a rule in business that says you can either be high touch, meaning high time with your clients, high price, or you can be low touch, meaning low time with your clients and low price, but you can't be both. It's
great. Yeah.
Like you can't roll into McDonald's and be like, okay, could I talk to the chef? I need a customized, and we can't custom order off. In fact, if you ever want to really confuse a McDonald's employee, just order a taco, right? Like, can I get one taco, right? No, sure. No. I just need a taco. I'm like, that's what I'm in the mood for. Right? It's like, no, they don't do that. So we do have to put some boundaries on our client base and some boundaries on our product line and some boundaries on our system. Does that kind of make sense?
It does make sense. And I can't remember who told me this one time, a long, long time ago, and I've said it a million times since, which is every time that somebody on your team has to touch something, a piece of work in some way, every time a team member has to touch it, it costs you money. So if that's an invoice, a check, a bill, an estimate, a note on their account, whatever the thing is, whether it's physically touching it or virtually, electronically touching it, another person, it has to get handed over, or they have to spend time on it, or maybe the same person has to come back around to the same thing again. Mm-hmm. Every time a team member touches the thing, it costs you money. And so when I think about simplifying a business, I
Or
think how many
costs you
touch
ti-
points?
It costs you
Right?
money because it costs you time, right?
That's right. It
Yeah.
costs you time because it costs you money. Exactly. And so I think about it that way. Like, how many times is somebody having to touch that thing when it really could be, maybe it's 10 when it could be 2.
Yeah.
Like invoices and automatic billing, for example. Right? So I think about it that way.
Yeah. And not only are there systems that kind of have that element to them, but there are also products that are much, much more demanding than others. Like one of my favorite questions to ask a business is like, if you have multiple product lines, if you do project work and enhancement work and you do some pavers and you do whatever it is, if you have a long list of those things, I just ask which of all of these things takes most of your time. And almost immediately people go, oh, I know. Like that's a pretty easy question to answer.
Yeah.
It's like these types of projects or this type of work takes way more time proportionally to its revenue. And so if we were to rank your product lines based on which one is more time intensive versus which one is less time intensive, and then we said, okay, immediately the question is, well, in that case, proportionally that is less profitable because we're spending more actually money on that than we would think. And so why are we doing that? Like, why would we, like, we have to at least take that into account. So if you came to me and you said, Dan, these types of projects are 80% of our problems, but guess what? They're also 80% of our profits. I would go, okay. I can
let's take a look at that.
I'm fine with that. Like we should try to like figure it out, but if they're 80% of your profits and 80% of your problems, that's proportionate. But what ends up more often happening, these are 80% of our problems, but 20% of our profits.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Or they know it's 80% of their problems and they don't actually know that it's 20% of their problems, right? Right? Or their profits, right?
Yes.
They know they're spending a lot of time.
It's 80% of our problems, but it's also 80% of our revenue. But maybe it's only 20% of your profit. Yeah.
That's right. But they don't know. Yeah. So they just think, how could we possibly let go of that thing, which is the largest chunk of business that we do. Right?
I call that bad money. So there's good money and bad money in your business, and you have to like search out whether it's that one client that's 30 minutes out of route. So we have to go way out there every time to do this property, and it's pretty good money, but it's way out of system. Or it's that project, that client that, the Karens of your world that call in every week and give you grief.
Yep.
It's like, just add the Karen tax and call it a day. Like just raise the price so high that it's like, okay, you're getting the Karen tax. Like there's like, have a little separate sheet on the side that's like Karen pricing. And it's like on the third time they call, you're just like, awesome. Hey, dear Miss Johnson, times are tough. Economies are hard. Your price is going from $50 per service to $120 per service. Please let us know if that's all right. We understand if you can't work with us anymore. Just send that email. Just send that one.
And permission to do so, right? Like, because if you want your business to grow, you can't do nothing but, help all the Karens. You just can't.
Yeah, and I'll say this again. Aaron's voice is echoing in my mind.
Sure.
That Karen is not more important than your kids.
Yeah.
So don't prioritize her above your kids.
That's great.
That kind of wonky project that is weird but brings in some revenue is not more important than your kids. Like, in order for us to get more time back, we have to like get committed to the things that deserve our time, that are prioritizing our time. All right, so we got to keep going. Thing 4. So 1, know your numbers. 2, build your team. 3, simplify your business. Number 4 is when you do have time. So there's such limited time and resource to do things that really, even the things that we're talking about here, where it's like, okay, I got to find some time to go audit my pricing. I've got to find some time to go hire the person and train the new person. I've got to go find some time to simplify my business and go call everyone and tell them we're only accepting credit cards. Like that's a lot of resource and takes a lot of time to make those adjustments.
Yeah.
And so for me, like one of the keys to being a time rich business is that in the little time we do have, one, that we do commit time, even if it's a little bit of time, to working on the business, not in it. Thank you, Michael Gerber, for that. And in that little time we do have, that we get really clear about what lever we're going to pull, like what's the most important thing we can do, and we get focused on that one thing at a time, that hopefully creates more space and then more space. So one of my favorite stories about this is I knew an entrepreneur who grew a business from when I knew him. He was started off, like when I was chatting with him at the time, it was like 5 million to like 200 million. So huge growth.
Wow.
And one of the things that they did is they had something in their business called early release Fridays. So every Friday they turned off the phones. They sent everyone home at 3 p.m.
Okay.
And they still paid everyone for a full week, but they sent everyone home at 3 p.m. The employees loved it. But the reason they did it was that they wanted time to work on the business, and they knew if employees and clients were around, they couldn't. And they would work till 5 or 6 on Fridays, but everyone else went home. They just turned off their business for that period of time. And they would go to, I think it was Panera Bread, which is like a little sandwich shop, and they would sit around and they would work on the business for that 2.5 hour period.
Love this.
And they got super focused for that small period of time. And by working for those small chunks of time, they would then get really clear on what's the thing we could work on that would give us more time. And that little 2 hour period turned into a half day turned into a day turned into like 2 days a week. And then pretty soon they had a lot more time on their hands to work on the business, not in it. And so we have to get committed to creating some time. I had another business owner I knew who was this mom of like 4 or 5 kids. And it was like Wednesday nights. She told her husband, I want to start a business. I just need Wednesday nights off. And every Wednesday night at 5 p.m., she would go hide in this little dugout she had in her attic. And she would just work on her business. And that Wednesday night business turned into a $4 million company because every Wednesday night she just made her business better, until eventually she had the resources to go do it. So it's like carving out time, whatever time you do have, has to be cherished and then prioritized on what's most important.
I love this. I think when the prioritization is so key when you think about staying committed to growing your business long term. It's like, how do you get people to stay at it long enough? It's like you get them to feel progress sooner, like feel like they're moving forward sooner. And how can you make that happen? Where you get really clear on what you need to go do next, what the next little step or piece of the puzzle is to figure out, and then feel like you're really moving that forward. Because when our businesses grow, like back to the visual of like, it's just growing big in every direction and all the things that we're saying yes to. And it's hard to know what to give your time and energy to. But when you get clear on how you're moving it forward and you get really dialed in and really intentional, then you can feel that progress and you will stay at it longer once you start to feel that progress.
Yeah, we just hired a marketing coach for our company. Hopefully we'll see good things come from it. But we hired a marketing coach, and here's why. It was for one reason only. I know that there's probably 1,000 different things we might do in marketing, and I don't have time and resources to do them all. And so I have to choose. I have to choose 3 things.
Yeah.
And I want somebody far wiser than I am. So we're going to spend, I don't know, 20 grand for someone to tell me what 3 things. Like, honestly, like I'm willing to spend that, because if I can get the right 3 things and I spend my time, a limited time and resources on those 3 things, then that's going to generate more resource, more time, more money. And then I'll say, what are the next 3 things? and he'll tell me the next 3 things. And I trust this guy to be wise enough to know out of all the things, what are the first 3 things? And if all he did was he walked into my business and said, do these 3 things first, ignore the rest, it would be worth 30 grand to me.
For sure. For sure.
Does that make sense?
The other thing that's part of that too is not only is he going to help us know what the 3 things are that we are going to work on, but he's going to remind us to say no to all of the other things, because there is a call in our future, Dan, where we get to it and you show up and you say something like, hey, but what about...
I have this great idea. Yeah.
That's right. I got this idea. Hey, what if it could kind of look like this, and what do you guys think? You know, and so as business owners are so captivating and engaging, we're all like, yeah, let's go do that. And if our marketing guy does a good job for us, which I have no doubt he will, he'll be like, wait a second. What we had these 3, remember we had these 3 things, right? Come back to the 3. We got to get these where we need them to be before we, go with this amazing idea, whatever it might be. So there's that.
Good business sometimes is a little boring.
Yeah.
It's a little boring sometimes in that it requires patience. It requires like focus over time. It requires you not to chase shiny objects. It requires you to build simple things, not sexy things. And it's like good business is a little bit boring, and we have to be a little bit willing to, honor the boring. And there will be thrilling moments. Don't get me wrong. There will be like daring risks periodically, but it's not every Thursday. It's like, it's going to be few and far between.
For sure. And if you're the business owner who's like, we just lost you with that last idea of how you need like patience and time, and it's going to be boring. If you're that guy or gal, because I know like, that business.
I quit.
Like everybody's like, I don't like these guys anymore. I'm not doing this. But that kind of person, like, hey, if you want more time to chase down any shiny object that comes your way, and you want the money and the resources to go chase down those shiny objects, just make this one business tight. Just make this one business profitable, and it'll help give you more. Like, you just chase shiny objects all day if you just first get your business to a good, healthy place.
I'll still struggle. I love you guys. All right. So, final idea. With the advent of technology is literally one of the time savers, right? It's like the reason Americans can watch 6 hours of television a day is because we invented the dishwasher and the oven and the grocery store. It's like we've invented all of this technology that allows us to accelerate tasks in our life. This story, I'm reminded of the story. So when I was just out of college, we went to my future wife, then girlfriend, and I went to Africa on this service mission where we were helping people that were in deep, deep poverty. We went to one of the poorest countries in the world and in one of the poorest areas of that country. And so, it was really hard, and you get really grateful and all that. But not that I'm like dismissing being really grateful. But more of the story is there was a woman that I met there, and I asked her one day, I said, so what did you do today? How was your day? What did you do today? And she said, I made lunch. And I almost said, well, what else?
Sure.
And before I did, it dawned on me, oh, that is a full day's work for her.
Wow.
Because she'd wake up in the morning, she would walk into the village, she would buy enough rice to feed her family for that day because she didn't have a place to store food. She would then walk back to her home. She would shell the rice because it's not pre-shelled, so that she'd shell the rice. She would go walk and get the water for the day. She would come back. She would boil the rice, cook the rice, and then feed her family lunch. She would then walk to get more water, come back to her home, wash and clean up, and it was time for bed. Okay? So her day was make lunch.
Wow.
Well, the reason I share this story is just to kind of give this idea. Are there things in your business that take some businesses 15 minutes that are taking you an hour and a half? Where it's like, well, what did you do today? Well, I just balanced my books. Oh,
Yep.
well, there's technology or outsourcing. Like, we can get that done really fast. Why are we taking that time? What did you do today? Well, I routed and scheduled. Oh, well, there's like technology that you just circle the properties you're going to do tomorrow and then print, right?
Yep.
What did you do today? Well, I invoiced all of my clients. Oh, well, there's like technology that allows us to make that easier. And so the more we can honor and just fall in love with technology, and if you're like not a computer guy or gal, like become one, because it's kind of hard to run a business in our modern age and be competitive if you don't use technology. It'd be sort of like using a push mower and trying to like compete with everybody else, right?
It's great. And it goes back to, the item before, which is just like prioritize one. Do one system, one piece of technology, one automation. You don't have to do everything all at once. You don't have to totally revamp every piece of your business, because it can feel overwhelming to do all of those things. But especially if you're a smaller business, like the smaller guys and gals I'm thinking of right now, whereas, 2 or 3 man kind of operations, what you're doing that's taking way too much of your time, like sending invoices, for example, that you could tighten all of that up if you just put in enough system, enough technology in place for that to be mostly automated, right? Just one piece, prioritize one and stay at it long enough until you get that system rocking. Then you can move on to the next thing.
I love it. And automations are so magical primarily because you build it once and it works forever. And so the more you move in that direction, whether you're using Service Autopilot or Spray or whatever tool you're using to automate important elements in your business, it is vital if you want to scale. Because scaling a business without great systems is like scaling problems and scaling time expense.
That
so
is
hard.
giving me another idea of like, let's put a pin in this future podcast idea, which is like what your CRM should do for you. Because I hear a lot of our business owners right now saying, well, I have Spray. I have that. I use that thing, but they're not really optimizing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not using it the way that they should. It's not as helpful as it could be because they kind of got it up and running and they weren't a computer guy or gal. And they were like, that's good enough. I'm going to go mow some lawns now because I hate sitting in front of a computer. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's go back to the tools that are already in front of you and make sure they're actually, working for you the way that they could be.
Yeah. They're driving their car in first gear and you're like, did you know there's a second gear and a third gear and a fourth gear?
Right.
And it is kind of a labor of love. CRMs are tough, but over time, we want to build it into something awesome. And almost always there's an ROI in the investment in automation. If we invest in automation and we build something cool that works, almost always it ROIs time back to us. So it's a great investment. Okay, so we said 5 things. Know your numbers, build a profitable business, build a team, simplify your business, prioritize so that when you do have to prioritize working on the business, not just in it, when you do have the time, be really strategic in the way you use it. And then finally, we have to find automations, systems, structures that are repeatable every time and that will ideally happen with technology automatically. Okay. Final thought, Miranda. What's your final thought?
My final thought is there are a lot of suggestions in today's conversation. And we started with knowing your numbers and understanding pricing and profitability. And if you only do that, it's a win. If you only spend some time figuring out if your pricing is right or like getting awareness into the profitability of a certain part of your business, that one step is a huge win. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. This isn't, hey, if I don't have the perfectly optimized and organized business, I'm not going to get any time back. Nope.
Yeah.
Every tiny step along the way buys you a little bit more.
And by the way, if you're if you're interested in help with that, please let us know. Like free of charge, we'll give you an hour to work through your pricing. info@ceocoach.biz, info@ceocoach.biz, and you can email us, say, hey, I want to have someone look through my pricing with us. We'll schedule an appointment with you. We'll give you an hour to like say, hey, let's take a look and see. It's that important, and we're like champions we're anti-unprofitable business. Like, I'm just done. I'm sick of seeing business owners sacrifice time, money, effort, time with their family, like years of their lives without being profitable. I'll close on this story because this probably is the story that should warn you and be the kind of the keep you up at night. I had a good friend of mine who ran a concrete business his whole life. He never figured out these things, never figured out how to hire A players, never figured out how to know his numbers, always skated by, had a business that just kind of worked, wasn't very sophisticated or slick, very few automations. Well, he got to a point in his life where his knees gave out. His health was terrible. In fact, the doctors essentially said, you have no knees and we can't replace your knees because your heart's not healthy enough to survive the surgery.
Oof.
His wife is in her 70s and she has to work full time to support the family. And he can't afford the respite home he needs to be in to get the care he needs. Old dog, never figured out new tricks. And now what? Now what? And I go visit this guy and he's humbled by this whole experience he's been through because he knows he is in a desperate place because his business never became the thing that paid for his retirement, never became the thing that was worth anything. It wasn't sellable. It never became the thing that allowed him to spend time with his family and his kids. By the way, has one son that kind of is helping out with him at this stage, but doesn't really want the business. And it's a mess, you guys. And this is why I get so committed and passionate about it, because this guy deserved better. He's a good dude and worked really, really, really hard. But because he just worked hard, but didn't work smart throughout his career, never solved some of these problems, he ended up with nothing to show for it. And a wife who at 70 something years old has to work full time, just barely pay the bills. That's tragic. That's tragic. Never be that guy. All right. Never be that guy. And if we can do anything to help you not be that guy, please let us know, because that should never happen. And definitely doesn't need to happen to you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Lawn Care CEO podcast. My name is Dan Ralphs. Go do more good.